Mike, could you share a couple of your maybe less obvious ones?
Just put like ethics, so like veganism, vegetarianism, local, like artisanal food, farming practices.
Okay. Jonathan?
How to order food, wasting food, eating disorders, GMOs, cannibalism.
Melinda? Or Don? Go for it.
Recipes, customs, religion, for example, fasting and prohibition regarding certain foods. The FDA, Food and Drug Administration, I think somebody said it earlier, agriculture and farming, kitchen vocabulary, advertising, holiday types of food for holidays, junk food, fast food, vegan diet, drinks. Okay.
Drinks, can't forget drinks.
Too much into that. Manners, right? Manners, bizarre food, weird, so-called weird food, culture. One thing that might be weird in one culture is not weird in another. Like I said, that's okay, bizarre, exotic food. Different kinds of cooking styles, recipes.
Pretty exhaustive.
Yep.
Did you have anything else to add?
Pizza,
More pizza.
permaculture, paleo, different diets,
Processed foods, industrial agriculture, climate change,
bioavailability of specific food,
working in restaurants,
hunger,
world hunger,
world hunger.
making a banquet, gluten-free.
I also always like to bring up the topic of what is American food.
Oh, yeah, we have that.
That could be a 4-hour debate right there. So, yes. So you can see that under the food might be one of the easier topics to do this with, but the reason why we made the themes so vague and broad is exactly for that reason, that you can choose something of interest or something that's relevant to your students that fits under the theme, and everything you said would fit. So in that regard, thinking about whether or not we need to add more themes, I mean, that's a possibility too, and we will ask you for your suggestions for more themes that we can add. But, you know, think about next time you get to that theme again, if you can try to go for a different topic or a different subtopic instead of the one you did last time. So don't feel closed in by the themes. See them as broad categories, and you can choose really anything of interest to you and to your students. Okay? All right, so let's see. Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. So I'm Mike, in case I don't know some of you, most of you probably. I'm going to talk about discussion questions and activities. On Friday Labs, I just do discussion questions for the most part. That's basically it. So it does not take long to plan, and that's why I like to do it. And you can do an entire 4-hour lesson based on discussion questions. And I'm going to talk about some strategies for doing that. The first way that I like to do discussion questions, and this depends on the level of the group, is dictating questions to students. So to illustrate that example, I'm going to dictate the first question for all of you. So if you have a pen, pencil, write down the first question. First question is, are you ready? What are the advantages and disadvantages of creating and designing materials for a lab? What are the advantages and disadvantages of creating and designing materials for a lab? Take a second. Write down that answer. Write down that question. And if you were students, I would invite you to confer with your partner to make sure that you have the question dictated correctly. Okay? I could do that for a list of 10 to 15 questions. And then what I would do is I would have the students either read them back to me or one by one go on the board and write what they have. Okay, write what they've written down. So I do this for a number of reasons. One, question formation is one of the most difficult parts of English. Two, it's a good listening activity. Three, it's a spontaneous opportunity to do grammar. Okay, so if they miss something, you can go back and do insertion or question formation order, syntax order, whatever the case may be. In my experience, even post-advanced students who are extremely literate have difficulty formulating questions. Okay. So the first question, can someone read it back to me? Mike?
What are the advantages and disadvantages of creating and designing materials for lab?
The second way that I like to do questions is, and this is usually how I do it on a Friday, I just fill the board with questions that I think of before I come in. And then the students come in and they read the questions off the board. We go through them one by one. Typically when I do that, I like to insert either a colloquialism or some sort of word, vocabulary word that I don't think that they're going to know. Okay. The question that I have here, as an example, is what feedback students given about labs. Okay. I would then underline feedback, as I would suspect few students would know what feedback is, right? You could put a phrasal verb in there instead. You can structure it in an interesting way. The point of creating these questions in this way is to create a vocabulary and grammar discussion about the questions themselves. Okay? So that's the second question. The second way I do questions. The third way I do questions is I have students produce questions. Okay? So thinking about any questions that you want to raise for discussion, first in small groups, and then in a larger group that you have about labs. So take a second now. I invite you to write two questions each that you would like to discuss about labs. Okay? They can be opinion questions, they can be fact-based questions, they can be any type of questions you want. Just take 2-3 minutes and write down two questions that you want to bring up for discussion on the topic of labs.
And as you guys are writing your questions, I'm going to be coming around and grouping you together.
What about the students that leave early because they want to go to the mosque? 1 o'clock on Friday.
I'll let you go to work.
Close. Muslim beach. About 5 or 6 guys who may or may not be so religious. And you know, that kind of class. Said one. Yeah. Which I know there is a mosque here.